And folks, if you decide to support the Pacific Justice Institute on either a one-time or a monthly basis, we have a wonderful gift for you. It's a hardbound book by Brian Kilmeade, and it's entitled Thomas Jefferson and the Tripoli Pirates. It's an excellent book. It's very interesting. It's a best-selling book. It's our gift to you in appreciation if you decide to support the Pacific Justice Institute on either monthly or on a one-time basis. But in addition to that, folks, I want you to remember what we're just now offering on our website as well, and that is an article. It's a paper about the 12 steps you can take to prevent your children from being taken by social workers. It's a very, very valuable piece of information, and I strongly encourage you to go to our website, download this, and send it out to others. Every parent in the United States should have this as well. So if you choose to support the Pacific Justice Institute, I want to thank you, and we want to provide these resources to you as our gift in appreciation. Now, we have with us on the line one of our attorneys who's a full-time attorney, Matt McReynolds, to talk about a case that is really very touching to my heart, and I'm sure it'll be very touching to your heart as well when you hear about it. It's involving a little toddler who was in crisis, and things went south. Matt, tell us what happened with this little toddler named Baby Israel.
That's right, Brad. Well, this was a case that came to us at Pacific Justice Institute in the spring of last year, and I won't go through all the many, many ins and outs of this parent's journey, but just really briefly, what happened was that her toddler was in crisis, had an asthma attack. She took him to the hospital, and one thing leading to another, the baby was on life support, fighting for his life, and the parents found themselves actually up against both the medical and the legal community fighting for his right to life as well.
Wow, so they're battling with the hospital, with the doctors there, on the issue of whether or not their unborn should be, or excuse me, their young child should be terminated, killed, have life support taken.
That's right, Brad. And in situations like this, we've begun to see some very disturbing patterns here at Pacific Justice Institute where you have a family with a loved one who is on life support, be it a toddler. We've had people in all ages of life, from young adults to senior citizens.
Right.
And the family sees signs of life. They see their loved one continuing to fight for life while the institution wants to pull the plug and wants to take away all hope that they're going to recover.
In fact, in this circumstance, as I understand it, in this particular case we handled, when the mother spoke to the little toddler on life support, the little toddler would grip her hand. It would respond to her voice. That's very compelling. And in fact, there was a neurologist brought in who sided with the mother and says, no, it is too premature to pull the cord on this little infant, right?
And that's a really important point you bring out there, Brad. It wasn't just this parent. It wasn't just what they were seeing and what they have on video with their toddler responding, but it was other doctors as well saying, hey, no, we think this infant could recover. We think there are still signs of life here, and it's important to continue to fight for that and to keep them on life support so they have a chance to recover.
Yeah, and folks, a little side note here I want to make, and that is we have seen an increase in these. We didn't have these 10 years ago, but now we're seeing these. We've had 3 of these already, these kind of cases similar to this, and that is why it's so important that we are aggressively addressing this issue, because we're talking about innocent people and inability to have proper due process protection. Now, before we get into what we're doing legally on it, what action did we take in this case? I want people to understand that we weren't just on the sideline. When we were contacted, we took quick and swift action, didn't we?
Brad, there was a flurry of activity. There were all kinds of different emergency motions that were filed in the spring of last year that did actually prevent life support at that point from being terminated, and that kept the child and his family fighting for several months. And so what happened was we were eventually able to get to the point where the family, after several weeks, was able to move the child out of the country to receive treatment at another facility down in Guatemala where doctors did believe in him. They ran tests that weren't run here in California. So it was every indication that things were heading the right direction until the family, unfortunately, decided they would bring him back to the United States and seek additional treatment. And what happened here, Brad, was such a tragedy because the hospital, when he arrived back in Southern California,
at the same hospital,
wouldn't even look, wouldn't do additional testing, wouldn't look at the testing that had been done in Guatemala because there was a certificate of death that had been filed in the state of California. That's all they would look at, and they terminated his life support without that testing.
Oh, yeah, that is so outrageous, and yet I guess they thought it would just all dissipate and go away when this precious baby Israel passed away after they had the life support taken from him. And yet we at Pacific Justice didn't let this just go away. What did we do? And what are we doing?
Brad, we're continuing this litigation in federal court. We are challenging the state law under which all of this happened. It's something called the Uniform Determination of Death Act. Nearly every state actually has either a law like this or something very similar through the judicial process. And what we've seen throughout this is that the state law played a key role in authorizing the hospital to do what they did. Now, the district court here in federal court in California disagreed with us on this. They said, we don't think the state has to protect life in this way. We think this is all on the doctors. The state can shift liability to them, and therefore they moved to dismiss the case.
Okay.
So we're now on appeal at the Ninth Circuit Court of Appeals. We actually are optimistic about our odds at the Ninth Circuit Court of Appeals because we're presenting them with a very basic question, Brad. Are you really going to tell us that a parent fighting for their child, fighting for life in this situation, has no constitutional options to prevent the deprivation of life?
Well, any just basic due process. I mean, they have no due process at all under the existing law in California. And we talk about criminals, people who are, have committed crimes. You can't put them behind bars without due process. And here we have life, precious life, being premeditatively taken from someone, a human being on life support. And the present law, if I get this right, I mean, correct me if I'm wrong, Matt, the present law basically gives absolutely no due process protection for those loved ones to utilize to make sure that there's not a wrongful act about to take place and permanently terminate and kill their loved one. Is that right?
There's a huge disparity, Brad. It just as you so well pointed out, between the process that's given to criminals on death row and the process that is given to innocent children, innocent family members before their lives are terminated. And that's what we're seeking to remedy. That's why we're on appeal to the Ninth Circuit, and that's why we're going to be filing our opening brief here within just the next several days.
And Matt, this is groundbreaking. We researched this. I know you and our legal team, we researched this issue. If we prevail, this will be setting a major case law precedent that could ripple throughout the United States to protect against this kind of cheapening treatment of human life, right?
Absolutely. We can't overstate the importance here.
Now, Matt, you think we have a good shot at prevailing. Now, this is the Ninth Circuit Court of Appeals. I mean, many people, when they hear Ninth Circuit, they're like, oh, shoot, Ninth Circuit, California. This is going to be terrible. We don't have a chance. Why do you think, in particular, in this case, that this Ninth Circuit, which is predominantly fairly liberal, they're not exactly the most pro-life Supreme Court, what exactly do you think is going to make a difference in this case?
Well, interestingly, Brad, on this kind of an issue where we're talking about Article III standing, who can file suits in federal court, who can bring constitutional claims, the Ninth Circuit has been very liberal as living up to its reputation, but that means they favor more people being able to come into federal court and present more types of claims than other courts and even the U.S. Supreme Court typically do. And that's why we think they would have to go back on their own principles in order to rule against us and close the courthouse door on our client here.
So, Matt, I want people to understand that we're not talking about making it so that just anyone can postpone someone having life support removed when they're clearly already medically dead. There's no brainwave activity. This isn't some kind of an attempt to cause a major burden upon the system and medical healthcare system. We're talking, though, about just having some kind of due process protection in some way to protect the termination, the permanent termination of someone's opportunity to live.
Yeah, Brad, this is a fairly small number of cases, although it's increasing, where there is a medical dispute about whether or not the patient is continuing to be alive and has a chance to fight for life, and where the family wants to continue to fight for them. And when the family wants to keep fighting for them and there's evidence that there may be recovery, then we're going to stand with that family and fight for them as well.
Yeah, and I think that is so important, folks. When we live in a society which partly because of Obamacare and other things have really cheapened life. You hear the word, quality of life versus quantity. We'll just let things. This is not. They're not going to have a really quality life. We'll just terminate them. That mindset has really pervaded a lot of modern medicine, and there are doctors out there who have stood up to it. There's organizations that are standing up to it. Well, we at the Pacific Justice Institute, we want to stand up to this cheapening of human life in modern day medicine. And if you know of someone out there in a similar circumstance where there is some evidence of life and you have loved ones who want that second chance, who want to have some kind of due process, some kind of opportunity to get a second opinion or testing, contact us at the Pacific Justice Institute. These aren't easy cases. We're very unique in that we get involved in these cases to begin with. But we get involved in these cases because life matters. And it matters to every single person who is God's creation. Matt, thank you once again for being on the program. Keep up the great work.
Thanks, Brad.
Folks, please pray for Matt and our other attorneys involved in this and our other cases. If you'd like to keep up with our cases, I encourage you to go to our website, pacificjustice.org, and there you can sign up to get our Legal Insider. It's our weekly Legal Insider. It'll update you on cases like this that you can be aware of and also pray for. So, folks, there you have it. It's our God-given freedoms we're talking about. Now, let's choose to keep them. I'm Brad Dacus of the Pacific Justice Institute. Have a great weekend.